The USS Harmony moved slowly through space toward the blue crystal planet. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the alien world grow larger on the screen. His hands were steady, but his heart beat fast. This was the most important mission of his life. "Sir, we're getting a message from the planet," said Lieutenant Lisa Parker from her station. "They're giving us permission to land." Jake nodded. "Take us down, Lisa. Nice and easy." Behind him, the rest of the team got ready. Dr. Alex Turner checked his science equipment one more time. Diplomat Karen Walsh looked over her notes about alien customs. And in the corner, Sergeant Danny Carter cleaned his rifle, even though they hoped they wouldn't need weapons. Danny was different from the others. While they worried about saying the wrong thing or making mistakes, Danny just wanted to do his job and keep everyone safe. He had fought in 3 wars and seen things that would give most people nightmares, but he still smiled easily and made jokes when things got tense. "You nervous, Doc?" Danny asked Alex with a grin. Alex pushed his glasses up his nose. "A little. These aliens are supposed to be telepaths. They can read minds." "Well, they're gonna have a fun time in my head," Danny laughed. "It's like a junk drawer up there." Karen looked worried. "Please remember what I told you about their culture, Danny. The Zephyrians don't show emotions. They think it's rude and primitive. You need to stay calm and quiet." "Got it. Calm and quiet." Danny gave her a thumbs up, but Karen could tell he wasn't really listening. The ship landed on a platform made of smooth, glowing crystal. Outside the windows, they could see tall, thin buildings that looked like they were grown instead of built. Everything was blue and silver and perfectly clean. "Welcome to Zephyr Prime," Jake said to his team. "Remember, we're here to make friends and set up trade deals. Earth needs their technology, and they need our resources. Don't mess this up." They walked down the ship's ramp onto the crystal platform. The air was thin and smelled like flowers. Waiting for them was a group of tall, pale aliens with large blue eyes and long white hair. They wore flowing robes and stood perfectly still. In the center of the group was the most beautiful being any of the humans had ever seen. She was taller than the others, with silver markings on her face and a crown that looked like it was made of starlight. This was Princess Lyrale Starweaver, heir to the throne of the Zephyrian Empire. The princess had lived for over 200 years, but she looked young to human eyes. She had never shown anger, fear, joy, or sadness. Her people were proud of this. They believed that emotions made people weak and stupid. "Welcome, humans," the princess said. Her voice was like music, but it had no feeling in it at all. "I am Princess Lyrale. I will speak for my people in these talks." Captain Morrison stepped forward and bowed the way Karen had taught him. "Your Highness, I'm Captain Jake Morrison. This is Dr. Alex Turner, our science officer, Karen Walsh, our diplomat, and Sergeant Danny Carter, our security chief." The princess nodded at each of them. Then she raised her hand. "We will now perform the ceremony of minds. I will touch your thoughts to know your intentions." Karen had warned them about this. The Zephyrians always read the minds of visitors to make sure they weren't lying or planning to cause trouble. It was supposed to feel like a gentle touch in your head. The princess moved to Captain Morrison first. She put her hand near his forehead without touching him. Jake felt a cool presence in his mind, looking through his thoughts like someone flipping through a book. It was over in seconds. "You seek trade and peace," the princess said. "This is good." She did the same with Dr. Turner and Karen Walsh. Both times, her face stayed perfectly calm. She found their thoughts organized and easy to read, just like every other alien race she had met. Then she came to Danny. Danny stood at attention like a good soldier, but he was thinking about home. He was remembering his sister's laugh, his mother's cooking, and the way rain sounded on his apartment window. He was also thinking about a funny joke his friend had told him last week. When Princess Lyrelay touched his mind, everything changed. Danny's thoughts hit her like a storm. Where other minds were like quiet libraries, his was like a busy street during a festival. She felt his memories of war mixed with his love for his family. She sensed his fear of letting his team down and his determination to protect them. She felt his sadness for friends he had lost and his hope for a better future. But most shocking of all, she felt his humor. Danny was thinking about how serious everyone looked and wondering if aliens ever told jokes. He was trying not to laugh at how fancy the princess's crown was, and he was hoping the ceremony would end soon because his feet hurt. The princess had never felt anything like it. For the first time in her long life, her perfect control slipped. Her eyes went wide, and she took a step back. "Your Highness?" Captain Morrison asked, worried. "Is everything okay?" Princess Lyrelay stared at Danny, who looked back with concern in his brown eyes. "Is something wrong?" Danny asked. "Did I think something bad? Sorry if I did." The princess couldn't answer. She was feeling something she had no name for. Her heart was beating faster, and her hands felt strange. The other Zephyrians looked at her with shock. Their princess, who had never shown emotion, was clearly upset. "The ceremony is complete," she said, her voice not quite as steady as before. "You may enter our city." As they walked toward the crystal buildings, Princess Lyrelay kept looking back at the human soldier. She couldn't understand what had happened to her. All she knew was that something had changed, and she wasn't sure if she liked it or not. Danny, meanwhile, was just happy that he hadn't messed up the alien greeting. He had no idea that his messy, emotional, very human mind had just turned the princess's world upside down. The next morning, the real talks began in the Grand Council chamber. The room was huge, with walls made of crystal that caught the light and threw rainbows everywhere. Princess Lyrelay sat on a throne that looked like it was carved from a single, giant gem. Around her stood the other Zephyrian nobles, all as still and quiet as statues. The humans sat at a table across from them. Captain Morrison and Karen Walsh did most of the talking, discussing trade routes and what each side could offer. Dr. Turner took notes on his tablet, and Danny stood by the door, watching for any signs of trouble. Princess Lyrelay tried to focus on the talks, but she kept looking at Danny. She didn't understand why. Every time she tried to listen to Captain Morrison talk about mining rights, her eyes would drift to the human soldier. Danny stood perfectly still, like a good guard should. But unlike the Zephyrian guards, who looked like stone men, Danny was clearly alive. She could see him breathing. Sometimes he would shift his weight from one foot to the other. Once, when Dr. Turner dropped his stylus, Danny's eyes followed it to the floor, and he almost smiled. This was very strange to the princess. Zephyrian guards never moved unless ordered to. They never looked at anything except threats. They certainly never almost smiled. "Your Highness?" Karen Walsh was speaking to her. "We were asking about your crystal-growing technology." "Yes." "Of course," the princess said, forcing herself to pay attention. We can share some of our methods in exchange for your fusion reactor designs. The talks went on for hours. Princess Lyrelai answered questions and made counteroffers, but part of her mind was always aware of the human guard by the door. When the meeting finally ended, she felt oddly disappointed. That evening, there was a formal dinner in the great hall. Long tables were set with crystal plates and silver cups. The humans sat at the high table with Princess Lyrelai and the other important Zephyrians. Danny wasn't supposed to sit with them. As security, he should have stood against the wall and watched. But Princess Lyrelai surprised everyone by asking him to join them at the table. "I would like to hear about your human customs," she said. "Your soldier can tell us about your warrior traditions." The Zephyrian nobles looked shocked. Soldiers never sat with royalty, but no one could argue with the princess. Danny looked uncomfortable. "Your Highness, I don't think that's right. I'm just here to keep everyone safe." "Please," the princess said. "I insist." So Danny sat down, feeling very out of place among all the fancy aliens. The dinner was strange. The food didn't taste like anything from Earth, but it wasn't bad. The problem was the silence. Everyone ate without talking, like they were at a library instead of a party. After a while, Danny couldn't take it anymore. "This is really good," he said, pointing at something that looked like purple bread. "What do you call it?" Several nobles gasped. "You weren't supposed to speak during meals unless spoken to first." "It is called moon wheat," Princess Lyrelai said. "It grows only in our northern cities." "Cool. Kinda tastes like cornbread from back home." Danny took another bite. "My mom makes the best cornbread. She puts honey in it." "Honey?" the princess asked. "Yeah, it's this sweet stuff that bees make. Bees are these little flying bugs that make honey and help plants grow. They're pretty amazing, actually." Dr. Turner looked nervous. Karen Walsh was making stop-talking gestures with her eyes. But Princess Lyrelai leaned forward, interested. "Tell me more about these bees," she said. So Danny did. He told her about beehives and flowers, and how bees dance to tell each other where to find the best nectar. Then he told her about his grandmother's garden and how she always said the bees were her best friends. The other Zephyrians sat in shocked silence. This human was having a casual conversation with their princess as if she were just a regular person. It was unthinkable. But Princess Lyrelai found herself enjoying it. For the first time in her life, someone was talking to her like she was normal, not like she was made of glass or too important to touch. When dinner was over, the humans were supposed to go back to their guest rooms. But as they walked through the corridors, Princess Lyrelai found herself walking beside Danny. "Your grandmother sounds wise," she said. Danny smiled. "She was. She died when I was 12, but I still remember everything she taught me. She used to say that the smallest things in life are often the most important." What did she mean? Well, like the bees. They're tiny, but without them, there wouldn't be any flowers or fruit. Or like smiling at someone when they're having a bad day. It doesn't cost anything, but it can make all the difference. Princess Lyrelai stopped walking. "You believe that small gestures have great power?" "Sure, don't you?" she thought, about this. In Zephyrian culture, only big official acts mattered. No one paid attention to small kindnesses or gentle words. "I have never considered it," she said honestly. "That's too bad," Danny said. "Those little things are what make life worth living." They reached the guest wing, and Danny stopped. "Well, this is where I get off. Good night, Your Highness." Good night, Sergeant Carter. Danny walked to his room, but Princess Lyrelay stood in the hallway for a long time, thinking about bees and grandmothers and small acts of kindness. That night, she lay in her bed staring at the ceiling. For over 200 years, she had fallen, asleep easily, her mind as calm as a still pond. But tonight, her thoughts wouldn't stop moving. She kept thinking about Danny's smile when he talked about his family. She wondered what cornbread tasted like with honey. She found herself curious about earth and rain and all the strange things humans did. Most disturbing of all, she realized she was looking forward to seeing the human soldier again tomorrow. This was very wrong. Zephyrian royalty didn't look forward to anything. They lived in the eternal present, never wanting anything more than what they had. But as she finally drifted off to sleep, Princess Lyrelay was thinking about brown eyes and easy laughter and the way someone could make even a princess feel like just another person worth talking to. In his room down the hall, Danny slept peacefully, completely unaware that he had just caused the most controlled being in the galaxy to have her first sleepless night. 3 days into the talks, trouble started brewing. Lord Commander Vexian, the head of the Zephyrian military, was not happy with how things were going. He watched Princess Lyrelay talking with the humans and saw something that made his blood run cold. The princess was changing. She smiled now when she greeted the humans each morning. She asked questions about Earth during breaks in the meetings. Yesterday, she had actually laughed when Danny told a joke about a talking dog. The sound had echoed through the crystal halls like thunder. "This is madness," Vexian told his fellow nobles in a secret meeting. "The humans are poisoning our princess with their crude emotions. Soon she will be as wild and uncontrolled as they are." "What can we do?" asked Lady Cressida, an elderly counselor. "The princess seems happy." "Happy," Vexian spat. "Happiness is a disease. It makes people weak and foolish. We must stop this before it spreads to others." The other nobles nodded. They had noticed younger Zephyrians in the palace looking curious about the humans. Some had even been caught trying to listen in on the talks. This was very dangerous. "I have a plan," Vexian said. "Tomorrow is the ceremony of unity. All the important people will be there. We will show everyone what happens when humans face a real threat. When they break down and show their true weakness, the princess will see them for what they really are." Meanwhile, Princess Lyrelay was having her own problems. She couldn't stop thinking about Danny. Every night she lay awake wondering what he was doing. Did he miss his home? What did Earth look like? What would it feel like to see those bees he talked about? These thoughts scared her. For her whole life, she had been taught that wanting things was wrong. Zephyrians were supposed to accept what they had and never wish for more. But now she found herself wishing for many things. She wished she could see Earth. She wished she could taste cornbread with honey. Most of all, she wished she could talk to Danny without all the other nobles watching and judging. During the morning talks, she made a decision that surprised everyone. "I would like to take a break," she announced. "Perhaps our guests would enjoy seeing our crystal gardens." This was not planned. Formal talks never stopped for sightseeing. But Captain Morrison smiled and said that sounded wonderful. The crystal gardens were beautiful. Tall trees made of living crystal grew alongside normal plants, creating a mix of natural and magical beauty. Princess Lyrelay walked beside Danny while the others explored. "Your world is amazing," Danny said, looking up at a tree that chimed softly in the breeze. How do you grow crystal like this? We sing to it, the princess said. Crystal responds to certain frequencies. We have been doing this for thousands of years. That's incredible. On Earth, we just stick seeds in dirt and hope for the best. Princess Lyrelay found herself smiling again. Tell me about Earth plants. What are they like? Danny told her about oak trees and roses and grass that grew wild in fields. He described autumn leaves that turned red and gold, and spring flowers that pushed up through snow. He talked about forests where sunlight filtered through green leaves and made patterns on the ground. It sounds messy, the princess said, but not in a mean way. It is, Danny agreed. But that's what makes it beautiful. Nothing is perfect, but somehow it all works together. As they walked, Princess Lyrelay felt something she had never experienced before. She felt peaceful. Not the cold, empty peace of Zephyrian meditation, but a warm, comfortable feeling like she was exactly where she belonged. They were so busy, talking that neither of them noticed Lord Commander Vection watching from behind a crystal tree. His face was twisted with anger. That evening was the Ceremony of Unity, one of the most important events in Zephyrian culture. Everyone gathered in the great temple, a massive crystal dome that glowed with inner light. The humans sat in a place of honor near the front. The ceremony began with traditional songs and dances. Princess Lyrelay performed a ritual that was supposed to show the unity of all Zephyrian minds. Everything was going perfectly. Then Vection made his move. Hidden throughout the temple were devices he had built in secret. When he activated them, they sent out psychic waves designed to attack human minds. The plan was to drive the humans crazy, with fear and confusion, showing everyone how weak they really were. The psychic attack hit like a hammer. Captain Morrison cried out and fell to his knees, holding his head. Dr. Turner collapsed, his glasses flying off his face. Karen Walsh tried to stay standing, but couldn't stop shaking. The Zephyrians in the temple gasped. They could feel the psychic storm, but it didn't hurt them the way it hurt humans. You see? Vection shouted, standing up from his hiding place. This is what humans are really like, weak, helpless. They cannot even defend their own minds. But then something unexpected happened. Danny was still standing. The psychic attack was hitting him just as hard as the others, but he fought back. His military training had taught him to function even when he was scared and hurt. He pushed through the mental storm and looked around for the source. It's coming from those crystal things, he shouted, pointing at Vection's hidden devices. Someone's doing this on purpose. He started moving toward the nearest device, even though every step felt like walking through fire. The psychic waves tried to fill his mind with terror and confusion. But Danny had seen real terror in real wars. This was just another enemy to fight. Princess Lyrelay watched in amazement. The other humans were down, but Danny kept going. She could feel his pain through her telepathic abilities, but she could also feel his determination. He wasn't going to give up. Then Vection made a mistake. He turned up the power trying to stop Danny. The increased psychic assault was too much for the human soldier. Danny stumbled and fell, blood running from his nose. Princess Lyrelay saw Danny hit the ground and something inside her broke. "No!" she screamed. The sound of her voice, filled with pure emotion, rang through the crystal temple like a bell. Every Zephyrian felt it. Many of them had never heard such raw feeling before. The psychic devices overloaded from her emotional outburst and exploded in showers of sparks. The attack stopped immediately. Princess Lyrelay ran to Danny, not caring that hundreds of people were watching. She knelt beside him and helped him sit up. "Are you hurt?" she asked. and everyone could hear the worry in her voice. Danny looked up at her with a weak smile. "I've had worse. Thanks for the save, Princess." "How dare you?" Vection strode forward, his face twisted with rage. "Look what you've done! You've been corrupted by these animals! You show emotion like a savage!" Princess Lyrelay stood up slowly. For the first time in her life, she felt truly angry. "These animals?" she said, her voice cold as space. "This animal just tried to protect my people while you attacked our guests with cowardly tricks. This animal stood up when others fell down. This animal showed more honor in 5 minutes than you have in your whole life." The temple was dead silent. No one had ever heard their princess speak with such passion. "You are no longer fit to rule," Vection declared. "I call for the Council of Judgment. You must be removed from succession for showing such weakness." Princess Lyrelay looked around the temple at all the shocked faces. Then she looked down at Danny, who was getting back to his feet with Dr. Turner's help. "If caring about others is weakness," she said clearly, "then I choose to be weak." The crowd erupted in whispers and gasps. Some Zephyrians looked horrified, but others, especially the younger ones, looked interested. They had seen something new today, and they weren't sure if it was terrible or wonderful. As the humans were escorted back to their rooms to recover, Princess Lyrelay realized her life had just changed forever. There would be no going back to the calm, emotionless existence she had known. And for the first time, she wasn't sure she wanted to go back. Anyway, the next morning brought chaos to the Crystal Palace. The Council of Judgment had been called, and Princess Lyrelay would have to defend herself or lose her right to rule. Word spread quickly through the city, and Zephyrians gathered in the streets to discuss what had happened. In their guest quarters, the humans were recovering from the psychic attack. Danny sat on his bed with an ice pack on his head while Dr. Turner checked him for injuries. "You should be in a hospital," Alex said, shining, a light in Danny's eyes. "That was a serious mental assault." "I'm fine, Doc, just a headache." Danny winced as he moved. "What I want to know is why they attacked us. I thought we were getting along pretty well." Captain Morrison paced the room, angry. "Some of them don't want us here. They think we're a bad influence." "Are we?" Danny asked. Karen Walsh looked up from her notes. "The princess has been acting differently since we arrived, more human. Some of the nobles see that as corruption." "That's ridiculous," Danny said. "She's just being herself for the first time." "How do you know that?" Karen asked. Danny thought about it. "I don't know. I can just tell. When she talks about her people's customs, she sounds like she's reading from a book. But when she talks about other stuff, she sounds real." A knock at the door interrupted them. A Zephyrian servant entered and bowed. "Sergeant Carter," the servant said, "Princess Lyrelay requests your presence at the Council of Judgment. She wishes you to speak for her." The humans stared at each other in shock. "Me?" Danny said. "I don't know anything about alien law or politics. Captain Morrison should go, or Karen." "The princess asked for you specifically," the servant said. "The council begins in 1 hour." After the servant left, Captain Morrison sat down heavily. "Danny, this is bigger than just you and the princess. If she gets removed from power, our whole mission fails. Earth needs this alliance." "No pressure, or anything," Danny muttered. Karen pulled out her tablet. "I can give you some quick notes about their legal system, but honestly, I don't think facts and laws are going to win this. They're judging her emotions, not her actions." "Then what should I do?" Dr. Turner looked up from his medical scanner. "Be yourself. That's what got us into this mess. And it might be what gets us out." An hour later, Danny found himself standing in the Hall of Judgment, the most sacred place in Zephyrian culture. The room was carved from a single enormous crystal, and light flowed through it like water. Hundreds of Zephyrians sat in tiers around the central floor, all dressed in formal robes. Princess Lyrelay sat alone in the center, looking small and isolated. Across from her, Lord Commander Vection stood with several other nobles who supported him. The High Judge, an ancient Zephyrian with skin like white marble, spoke first. Princess Lyrelay Starweaver, you are accused of emotional corruption and unfitness to rule. Yesterday you displayed anger, fear, and concern in public. You disrupted sacred ceremonies with uncontrolled outbursts. How do you answer these charges? Princess Lyrelay stood up. Her voice was steady, but Danny could see her hands shaking slightly. I do not deny that I felt these emotions, she said, but I deny that feeling them makes me unfit to rule. A murmur ran through the crowd. This was not the usual kind of defense. You admit your corruption? Vection said, sounding triumphant. You confess that you have fallen to the level of these primitive humans? I confess that I have learned something new, the princess replied. And I request that Sergeant Carter be allowed to speak on my behalf. More murmurs. It was unusual for an alien to speak at a Zephyrian trial, but not forbidden. The High Judge nodded. The human may speak. Danny walked to the center of the hall, feeling very small under all those alien stares. He had never been more nervous in his life, but he tried to remember what Dr. Turner had said. Be yourself. Your honors, he began. I'm not a lawyer or a diplomat, I'm just a soldier. But I've seen a lot of different kinds of strength in my life, and I've seen a lot of different kinds of weakness too. He looked around at the assembled Zephyrians. You think emotions make people weak? I get why you'd think that. Emotions can make people do stupid things. I've seen soldiers panic in battle. I've seen people make bad choices because they were angry or scared. Vection nodded, looking pleased. But, Danny continued, I've also seen emotions make people stronger than they ever thought they could be. I've seen a mother lift a car off her trapped child because love gave her strength. I've seen soldiers charge into certain death to save their friends because loyalty mattered more than their own lives. He turned to look at Princess Lyrelay. 3 days ago, your princess saved my life and the lives of my friends. She did it because she felt something for us. Not duty or obligation, but genuine care. That emotion didn't make her weak. It made her powerful enough to stop an attack that could have killed us all. Emotions are chaos, Vection interrupted. They lead to disorder and suffering. Danny faced him directly. You're right, emotions can cause suffering. But you know what causes more suffering? Not caring at all. He addressed the crowd again. On my world, we have a saying, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. Your princess didn't do nothing yesterday. She acted. She chose to care about justice over tradition, about protecting guests over maintaining appearances. Danny's voice grew stronger as he continued. You want to punish her for having emotions? Fine. But first, let me tell you what those emotions have accomplished. He pointed to Princess Lyrelay. She felt curiosity, so she asked questions about my world and learned new things. She felt friendship, so she treated us like equals instead of inferior beings. She felt compassion, so she tried to understand our customs instead of just judging them. And yesterday, she felt anger when she saw injustice, so she stopped it. She felt fear when someone was hurt, so she helped them. She felt love for her people, so she risked everything to do what was right. The hall was completely silent now. "You call that weakness?" Danny asked. "Where I come from, we call that heroism." He walked closer to the High Judge. "Your Honor, I've fought beside heroes, and I've fought against monsters. The difference between them isn't that heroes don't feel fear or anger or doubt. The difference is that heroes feel those things and choose to do the right thing anyway. Your princess felt all those emotions yesterday, and what did she choose? She chose to protect innocent people. She chose justice over personal safety. She chose what was right over what was easy." Danny looked around the hall one more time. "If that's the kind of ruler emotions create, then maybe you should be asking why your other leaders don't have more of them." He stepped back. "That's all I have to say." The silence stretched on for what felt like forever. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a young Zephyrian started to clap. Then another. Then more. It wasn't everyone. Many of the older nobles sat stone-faced and disapproving, but a significant portion of the crowd was applauding a human soldier who had just turned their entire philosophy upside down. Princess Lyrelei stood up, tears running down her face. On any other day, this would have been scandalous. Today, it looked like honesty. "I have felt more life in the past week than in the previous 2 centuries, she said. "If you must remove me from succession for that, then so be it. But I will not apologize for learning what it means to truly care about something." The High Judge looked around the divided hall. The old order was cracking, and everyone could feel it. "This council will recess," he announced. "We will reconvene tomorrow with our decision." As the crowd dispersed, Princess Lyrelei walked over to Danny. "Thank you," she said simply. "Don't thank me yet," Danny replied. "We might have just made everything worse." The princess smiled through her tears. "Perhaps. But for the first time in my life, I feel like I'm fighting for something that matters." That night, neither of them slept much, but for very different reasons than before. The next day, crowds gathered outside the Hall of Judgment. Word of the trial had spread across the planet, and Zephyrians everywhere were talking about emotions and what it meant to be strong. For the first time in their history, the people were divided. Inside the hall, tension filled the air like electricity. Princess Lyrelei sat calmly in the center, but Danny could see the worry in her eyes. The High Judge entered with the other council members, their faces giving nothing away. "After much discussion," the High Judge began, "we have reached a decision." The hall fell silent. "Princess Lyrelei Starweaver, you have admitted to experiencing emotions and acting upon them. This is contrary to our oldest traditions." Princess Lyrelei closed her eyes, preparing for the worst. "However," the High Judge continued, "we cannot ignore what happened yesterday. Your emotions led you to protect innocent guests and stop a criminal attack. Your feelings resulted in justice being served." He paused, looking around the hall. "Furthermore, we have observed changes in our people since the humans arrived. Many of our youth have expressed interest in learning about other ways of life. Some have even begun to question whether our suppression of emotion has made us stronger or simply emptier." Lord Commander Vection stood up angrily. "This is madness. You cannot change thousands of years of tradition because of one human soldier's pretty words." "Sit down, Vection," the High Judge said firmly. "You lost the right to speak when you attacked our guests with illegal psychic weapons. You will face trial yourself for that crime." The old commander's face went pale, but he sat down. The High Judge turned back to Princess Lyreley. The Council has decided that you will retain your position as heir. However, we are implementing new policies. Zephyrian citizens will now have the choice to explore emotional expression if they wish. Those who prefer the traditional way may continue as before. A buzz of excitement ran through the younger Zephyrians in the crowd. Additionally, the High Judge continued, we are establishing a cultural exchange program with Earth. We believe we have much to learn from each other. Princess Lyreley opened her eyes, hardly believing what she was hearing. The Council recognizes that strength comes in many forms, the High Judge concluded. Emotional control is one form. Emotional courage may be another. We will explore both paths and see where they lead us. The crowd erupted in mixed reactions. Some cheered, some protested, but everyone was talking. For the first time in centuries, Zephyrian society was truly alive with debate and discussion. After the trial, Princess Lyreley found Danny in the Crystal Gardens, where they had walked just days before. Congratulations, Your Highness, Danny said with a smile. You won. We won, she corrected. I could never have done this without you. They walked together past the singing crystal trees. Princess Lyreley looked different now. She still moved with royal grace, but there was something new in her posture. She looked like someone who had found herself. What will you do now? Danny asked. Learn, she said simply. About emotions, about life, about what it means to truly rule people instead of just governing them. My father has agreed to step down early so I can begin implementing changes. That's amazing. Your people are lucky to have you, Princess Lyreley. Stopped walking and turned to face him. Danny, I have a question to ask you. Shoot. My people need teachers. People who understand both logic and emotion, who can help us find balance. Would you consider staying as our cultural ambassador? Danny was quiet for a long moment. That's a big job, Your Highness. I'm not sure I'm qualified. You changed our entire civilization in less than a week, she pointed out. I think you're more qualified than you realize. Danny thought about Earth, about his family and friends back home. Then he thought about what he could accomplish here, helping an entire species learn what it meant to feel. Can I think about it? He asked. Of course. But Danny... She reached out and touched his arm, a gesture that would have been unthinkable a week ago. Whatever you decide, thank you, for showing me that there's more to life than just existing. 3. Months later, Danny stood in front of a classroom full of young Zephyrians. On the walls were pictures from Earth, flowers and bees, autumn leaves, children playing in the rain. His students sat in a circle instead of rigid rows, and for the first time in their lives, they were encouraged to ask questions and share their thoughts. Today we're going to talk about laughter, Danny said. Can anyone tell me about a time when something made them want to smile? A dozen hands shot up eagerly. Danny grinned and pointed to a young Zephyrian in the front row. I saw 2 crystal birds playing together yesterday, the student said. They were chasing each other in circles, and it looked fun. I wanted to smile, but I didn't know if I should. That's exactly right, Danny said. That feeling you had, that's joy, and joy is meant to be shared. Through the window, he could see Queen Lyreley, she had been crowned the previous month, in the courtyard below, meeting with a group of human diplomats. The trade agreements had been signed weeks ago, but the real exchange was just beginning. She looked up and saw him watching. Even from a distance, he could see her smile. It was something she did easily now, and it transformed her entire face. Danny waved back, then turned to his students. "Now, who wants to learn about jokes?" The response was enthusiastic. As the lesson continued, the sound of laughter began to fill the classroom. It was a sound that had never been heard in a Zephyrian school before, but Danny had a feeling it would become common soon enough. That evening, Danny and Queen Lyrelei walked through the gardens as they often did now. The crystal trees chimed in the wind, but they were joined by a new sound. Zephyrian children playing nearby, their voices bright with newly discovered joy. "Any regrets?" Lyrelei asked. Danny considered the question seriously. He missed Earth, sometimes missed his family and the familiar sights of home. But he had video calls with them every week, and they were proud of what he was doing. "No regrets," he said finally. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be." "Good," Lyrelei said, "because I have a new project I want to discuss with you." "Oh, yeah? What's that?" "Some of our neighboring planets have heard about our cultural changes. They're curious. They want to learn about emotions, too." Danny stopped walking and stared at her. "You want to spread this to other worlds?" "Why not?" Lyrelei said with a grin that would have shocked her subjects just months ago. "If one human soldier can change an entire civilization, imagine what we could accomplish together." Danny started to laugh. It began as a chuckle, but grew into full, hearty laughter that echoed through the crystal gardens. After a moment, Lyrelei joined in, her musical laugh harmonizing with his. The sound carried across the palace grounds, where young Zephyrians heard it and smiled without shame. It drifted over the city, where people who had lived for centuries without feeling began to understand what they had been missing. And in classrooms and meeting halls and homes across the planet, the quiet revolution that had started with one confused princess and one honest soldier continued to grow, one emotion at a time. In the end, it wasn't advanced technology or superior firepower that made humanity special among the stars. It was their willingness to feel deeply, to care completely, and to share both their joys and sorrows with anyone brave enough to listen. And sometimes, that was exactly what the galaxy needed.